Hello and welcome again to another editing tutorial. Today I wanted to show you how I edit this tree of skulls, which is located in Cannock Chase. It's a phenomenal character within the chase. And if you are interested in photographing anything in Cannock Chase, but the characters within there, whether that's Groot, the tree of skulls, the dancing trees, I'm now offering workshops from September up till the end of November, all of the autumn period. So if you are interested in woodland, there is even open areas as well for nice sunsets and sunrises, things like that as well. So it's not all woodland. So if you are interested, then just contact me, send me an email, or contact me through Facebook and message me through there. So the reason why I wanted to go over this images is because it's quite a difficult edit, and we really are trying to make the best of the image that I've taken on this morning. Now, it wasn't the perfect morning by any means. It was bright blue sky, harsh light, etc. But I did like how the light was just falling on that left hand side of the tree there. There is other images to be had in the right conditions as well, more moody conditions I think. But if I can try and show you how I edit this image to get the most out of it really, and it's a little bit tricky, and we're going to be using Lightroom and Photoshop. We're going to be jumping in between the two to just process it a little bit, and like I say, get the most out of it. So the first thing is, I really don't need this left hand side of the image, so I'm going to crop it out, straight out. So I'm going to crop it to somewhere there, just to get rid of that nook of that branch there. With nothing's happening on that left hand side, so there's no need to keep it in, so we'll just crop that out, and that's our base for the image. A couple of other things I can see, the highlights on this right hand side I'm going to try and deal with because it's just too bright. The left hand side I'm going to try and work with that and see if I can create something with that. So the first thing is some little adjustments. For some reason we've got the clarity up there, so we'll just go through the main adjustments. I'm going to drop the highlights down a bit because they were so strong, certainly in that background, so we're going to drop them down a lot. This is an HDR image, by the way, so I've took a bracketed shot just because of the dynamic range. So shadows, let's up the shadows a little bit to around there. I'm going to drop the blacks down, and I'm probably going to leave the whites as is for now. Might just drop it down just slightly. I'm going to drop the DAs down to just soften the image and the clarity, and I might just bring that then blacks down even more so, and that will be the basic edit. Now I'm going to send it straight into Photoshop. So I've got the image in Photoshop, and I'm going to do a couple of little things to change this image and make it more moody and more painterly as well. So if we just drag down and duplicate that layer, go to the filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and again I've said this before, if you set your pixel radius to whatever your camera pixel is, mine's a 42 megapixel, so around the 42. So if yours is 45, set it at 45. If it's 23, set it at 23, etc. So we've got that, and then I'm going to go into the blend mode, and I'm going to pick multiply, and as you can see, it's really made it, whoa, but I actually quite like it, so I'm not going to drop it down too much. I quite like it quite strong within the image. And we're going to bring that detail out, so we'll just switch that on and off to show you what it's done. And it's actually give it a lot more contrast, give it a lot more saturation. No problem with that, we'll deal with that in a minute. Next thing I'm going to do is add a curves layer, and I'm going to bring that down. Sorry, I'm going to bring them highlights up because I want to do a little bit of sort of dodge and burn, if you like. So I'm going to bring that up, and then I'm going to add another layer, and it's going to be a levels layer, and then again I'm going to bring them highlights up. Sorry, I'm going to select them two layers by clicking Control on the PC, and then I'm going to drag them down and put them in their own group. Then what I'm going to do is actually add a layer mask to that group, and if I select Control and I, that will invert that. Then what I'm going to do, now you can do this with a mouse, but I prefer to do it with a pen because you've got a little bit more control. But I'll tell you what, let me do it with a mouse. And we're going to paint over it. So we're going to select the white, and we're just going to paint over the areas we want to highlight. Now if you have a look, that's like way too extreme, but if we go to the feather of the brush, we can drop that right down, so to about, it's got 184 on there, but this is where I prefer to use my pen because it seems to work a lot better. It works on the pressure that you put onto the pad, but I'm doing this as what I'm trying to do is get a bit more light to this left hand side, more contrast. Now if we've overdone it like so, we'll bring a little bit more light into there. We can just click the white. I'm just going to drop down the size, and I'm just going to paint some of them shadows back in. Like I say, this is easier with a pen. If you've got a pen, do it with a pen. And we're just going to paint that back in. So we've just added a little bit of light to that left hand side. So if we just switch that off, you can see we've added quite a bit of light to that left hand side actually. And that's just to give it a little bit of contrast there. That's all I'm going to do with that now. The only thing I might do is just flatten the image down. What we can do, if we hold Control Alt Shift and E, that will create another layer. So it's Control Alt Shift and E, that will actually create another layer of all the adjustments on it. Okay, so we can just work on that layer, or we can jump back to what we've done before. So what I'm going to do now is just remove some objects. So we'll just disable those, and then it's just a matter of removing some little bits of objects that I'm not keen on. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. That's the image. We'll save that now, and we'll throw it back into Lightroom. So I'll just show you the image before we've done some Photoshop edit, which was this one, which is quite flat, and then we've done some edits in Photoshop and just changed it a little bit and just sort of sprucing it up. But now it's too saturated, so let's just desaturate it. Let's get it back to where we want it to be. There we go. And I'm going to just make it just a little bit more paint. I'm just gonna drop down the DAs there. I'm going to grab a brush, and what I'm going to do is start to bring some detail back out in the trunk of the tree. So I've got my brush, I'm going to up the texture, and I'm just going to paint all that back in there. So we've got that nice detail. So we've got that nice soft background, and we've got that detail in the tree. Now the other thing I do like is this this fern in the foreground, so I'm going to make that a little bit sharper, and I want to bring your eye in from that bottom, so I'm going to make that sharp there and leave all the rest that nice soft painterly effect. And there we go. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just warm it up a little bit, so just a little bit of temperature warmth there. There we go. And then if we just zoom out of the image, I'm going to grab a radial filter like so, make it quite big from this side where the sun's coming from, somewhere there. I'm going to add a little bit of temperature to it like so, up the exposure like so, and just drop down the TAs. But I don't want it to really affect this branch too much, so what I'll do is subtract luminosity. I'll just click on the branch there so it won't select the there we go, that's better, so it won't change or alter the darker part of that that mask. And we can have a look what it's actually done there. It's just nicely softened that area back up. Now this area I want to darken, so I'm actually going to use another radial filter, and I'm going to bring it in here like so, bring that out to about there, stretch it in, and then all I'm going to do is just drop down the exposure, make it a little bit darker like so. Okay, now there's another couple of things we can do. I'm just going to darken this foreground area a little bit here. I'm going to just use a linear grad for that. I'm just going to bring that up there. I'm just going to darken that area down there. That's fantastic. Now we're just going to work on a bit of colour grading. Now with the colour grading, I am going to put a little bit of warmth back in that luminosity of the highlights. So I'm just going to bring that saturation up, just make it a little bit more sort of a morning shot, an early morning shot, by bringing a bit of nice orange sunlight into it, if you like. So we'll go for the mid-tones, we'll do the same again, just a little bit on the mid-tones, just a little bit. And the shadows, we'll just add a little bit of colour grading, a little bit of a blue colour, again just the slightest. And we could drop that down if we want, but it's creating too much of a dark shadow here, so I'm quite happy with those. I might just up the luminosity of the highlights just a little bit, and it's only just changing it, but it's actually taking that blueness away from the highlights. Now the other thing with the highlights we could do is the luminosity of the blues, we could bring those up, and I don't know whether you can see that in the top left hand corner there, but it's getting rid of that blue colour in the top left hand corner by upping the luminosity, which works quite well. Saturation, we could drop the saturation, the greens down a little bit, obviously not too much, but if we drop them down a little bit, it gives it just a nicer green colour. And I'm going to up the yellows a little bit, and I think that is probably my image done. So we can go right back to the beginning of when we merged as an HDR, then we sent it into Photoshop, done our little bit in Photoshop, and after the Photoshop, this is our before and after from Photoshop, how we've got it from that oversaturated, still quite a flattish sort of image, and then we've put our little spin on it and just made them greens a little bit nicer to view. So I think that's worked quite well. If you'd like to photograph this tree or many more of the characters within Cannock Chase, Then get in touch. Like I say, I'm running the workshops from September up till the end of November, the autumn period. Get in touch. There can be one-to-ones or groups. It can just be a guide round, or we can do it more as a tutorial. The workshops will be designed around the groups or the individual within the groups. Okay, I've enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.